Welcome to Venture with Joe and Cody, where we take a deep dive into the minds of leaders and innovators making a real impact today. I'm Joe.
And I'm Cody. And we're here to bring you the raw stories, the successes, and the setbacks that these trailblazers have experienced in their journey to where they are today.
Every week, we sit down with a new guest who's ready to share their insight and advice on business, entrepreneurship, and making a difference in their community. From local community members to industry experts, you're going to get the unfiltered truth behind their success.
So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned professional, or just curious about the business world, join us for a journey of learning and inspiration.
So let's grab a drink, settle in, and let's get started. This is Venture with Joe and Cody. Hey guys, we're back with another episode of Venture with Joe and Cody. This is part two of a series of the top 10 mistakes that could kill a real estate deal. That don't kill a real estate deal with Cody and I, but because we manage it and we figure it all out. But
yeah, we've seen enough of these
could be deal killers. Yes.
Yeah.
But if you're just watching the second part, go to the first part. But if you are just watching this for the first time, I'm Joe Skipper, owner of Skipper Realty Group, brokered by eXp Realty, and my friend Cody Wilhelm with Residential Mortgage. And like I said, we're going to cover the top 5 now. We went over the 6 through 10
bottom
the week
5
prior.
Yeah.
So now we are going to cover the top 5, the big dogs, and
Let's hit
who
it.
kind of owns this, who kind of owns the mistakes, and any examples. So for people that are just paying attention, that's what we're doing. So number 5 is sellers rejecting lowball offers instead of countering, and who owns that? It's telling me that the sellers own that. I think it's the agent.
Okay.
You know, ultimately, it's weird in this scenario because the sellers obviously have the say in anything they do. And that's what every agent has to keep in mind is it's not your house. It's not your money. It's not their biggest investment, and they need to know what to do. It's you have to advise them with data and logic to say, this is what I would do in this scenario, or this is what statistically this people do. There's been tons of times though that the offer is so offensive that even from data standpoint, I could be like, look, walk. Don't even respond to them. Like, don't even don't even say that, like, and we've done that. And it actually has worked in certain scenarios where they have come back and said, okay, sorry. I've said, look, we're not even close. It's not even worth writing a counteroffer because you guys are like so far off of what this house is worth. But there's also been tons of scenarios where people get personally offended as sellers.
Yeah.
Because they're like, that is a low offer and they're asking for this.
Yeah.
But
like I wouldn't even want to sell it to you now, even if you offered us
because it pissed me off. Yep. But it's like, I get the emotions involved, and you just have to explain to them, like, look, we're somewhat close. And it doesn't hurt anything to counter back with what you like. And if they say no, then you move on. It's always I tell every seller is like, you want to wake up the next day from this deal, either accepting and you're like, I loved it, or rejecting it and say, I'm glad we rejected it. You want to feel good and not feel like you didn't miss an opportunity.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where so say it's a lowball offer like that, and the counter was higher than the list price?
Yes.
Like, hey, you know what? You're going to go that far.
Yes.
I'm going to counter with you above what you have.
Yes.
I love that.
And we've had it, and they were like so pissed that they're like, we know they're not going to work this deal. We don't want to work with this deal because they're so ridiculous that we offer more. Yeah.
I love that. That's what I feel like I'd want to do too.
Yeah. It's not common, but it has definitely happened where it's been like, you guys are absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually, especially in this market, it's now a more balanced market. You're seeing a lot more of those offers that like hit you in the heart a little bit, you're like, gosh, I listed it for this price. We thought we could get this price, and they're asking for $15K in closing, which ultimately nets the seller $15K less, which ultimately means they sold it for $15K less, than they wanted.
Yeah.
But it depends on motivations and goals and how quickly you want to be gone, and in a strong pricing strategy in the very beginning. So yeah, it's kind of an all inclusive punishment. But the lenders are out of that one. The lenders aren't to blame for that.
Yeah, we're just kind of sitting back watching the show. Is there and it's probably more house specific because you probably can't just put a blanket statement on that. But like, is there a a percentage that somebody would be going under list price that's like, that's kind of the offensive percentage or number? Or is it, because obviously a $2 million home, you know, $20,000 under is probably not an offensive thing. But if it's a $300,000 home and 20,000, it might be like, you know, a little more like, dang, that's a bigger percentage. But I didn't know if there's kind of it's probably house to house and how long it's been on and all that
and
stuff.
Price to price, because like you said, a $400,000 house and you're asking for $20,000 off. That's a pretty significant price drop on that house, or what you're asking for. But a $2 million house, you're asking for $50,000 even. It's like, okay, out of $2 million, are we?
Sure,
we're close.
So,
and there's so many factors involved. And again, like not to harp back on the part one where we were talking about sellers pricing their home based on emotion, is if you do price it higher, you're going to get the initial sticker shock of an offer, maybe a sticker shock, but maybe it's closer to market value, if that makes sense. So they may be offering what you think is offensive, but maybe they're offering closer to market value, which was already lower than what your house is listed at. So you're kind of always playing that game with sellers of, you know, kind of keeping them grounded with what goes on, because you should treat my mother-in-law told me a long time ago when I first started, is like, you should treat every offer with the respect of it being the only offer. Like you may not get another offer.
I like that.
So don't just poo-poo away even a low ball offer. You know, it could be your last one. Like, so you just really have to take every offer seriously. And so I really do that with clients. It's like it sucks. You might hate these people. You might like that they offered this low, but you know, let's just walk through it and see where we could kind of go back and go back with them. And it doesn't hurt anything to go back and act like we're working with them. But yeah, we've also had like plenty of just like just ignore them. So the day goes by, the agents are trying to reach out. We're not doing anything. Like we're write another offer. Like So well, and that's always fun for me because I'm argumentative. I like being like confrontational. So when clients are like, dude, we're done, I'm like, yes.
You're like, now it's getting interesting.
Now it's my game. Like, I can be my immature self. So.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm the opposite. So I'd be like,
can we make something happen?
Sure. Yeah. Let's all go out to lunch and talk this out.
And talk this over. Okay, well, number 4, agents overpricing to win the listing and chasing the market down. I literally did not know this was number 4, and we just talked about this in part 1, and that is that's obviously on the agent, and we just talked about it, so I'm not going to harp on it again. But if you didn't listen to part 1, it basically agents chasing the listing and letting it, going after the listing, saying, I'll promise you the world, and I'll do whatever you want, and then knowing that the price will drop $200,000 because that's the market value. So it's important for sellers to really kind of take a step back. If you do see an agent that offers you $1.5 million for your house, and an agent that comes in and is like, you're closer to 1, see which one is like got more experience, giving you more of the data, given, you know, what's backing that up, even if you do want 1.5.
Right.
Because ultimately I tell sellers, look, it only benefits me to sell your house for $1 billion times more. Like if I could sell every single house for $3 million, I would do it. It doesn't help me to sell your house for less. So I'm not here to I'm not here to hurt your deal. Like I'm here to actually get you the most money, and this is how to do it. So really pay attention to that for sellers that are paying attention. So
well, and
if it's too good to be true, it may be, right?
Yeah. And when you're talking about, especially in that type of situation, hundreds of thousands of dollars of a difference.
That's extreme, but
no, but it's like, that's probably the reality, especially in this market too. Like, you know, a couple $100,000, because there's still, I'm sure, people that, you know, are thinking, well, our house should be worth this much, and the market says it's 200,000 less, and that's a tough pill to swallow. So if you're thinking, man, you know, if that's investing it into the next house or putting it in retirement or what, like that's a big chunk of change. So I can see how it would be, you know, that's a big emotional thing. It's not like, hey, I can sell it for $5,000 more than the next person.
And large properties for sure, and country properties are notorious for that sort of thing, because it's very difficult. Like if you do a residential comp like analysis for a home, like it's got 5 or 6 sales in the last 6 months, you can pretty much say, here's what the pricing is on this home. But a farm property or acreage or, it has a shop, doesn't have a shop, has a barn, doesn't, there's a lot of factors that go in. And so you will see agents that have a vast discrepancy on what they think they're going to price at. So it's just something to, especially those higher end homes on large acreage, it's harder to value.
Sure.
So you will see kind of agents that are all over the board.
Uh-huh.
But anyways,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay. Number 3, lenders slow on underwriting and killing contract deadlines.
Ooh.
I think that's you, Cody.
That is I'm going to say that's probably a 50-50.
With the selling agent or buying agent?
No, with the lender and the buyer.
Oh, okay. Really?
Because I mean, sometimes
explain this a little bit.
Sometimes maybe not 50-50. It's probably more like 25-75.
Okay.
75% on the borrower.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Or
Cody's
buyer.
throwing the blame on the buyers here. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see your explanation here.
Here's the reason why. Because most of the time when there's an issue with timing, very often it's because the borrower or the buyer, we call them borrowers in our world.
Yeah.
The borrower tends to not be very organized. They drag their feet. They don't provide us documents. They don't do a lot of things in the timelines that we're asking for.
Okay.
Which then, especially early on, that's when you lose the most amount of time, is that early on, like that first week or two.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at it, it's so far down the road. We got 30 days. Like we just started. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure.
We just did the inspection. We're doing there's a lot of things happening. So I think on our side, it can tend to be a little more like checking in. Hey, wanted to make sure we get this. And then a couple days go by and we still don't have it. Hey, we're still needing this. So you can lose 2 or 3 days pretty easily in the beginning, where things could be moving along if they're dragging their feet a little bit.
Yeah.
If you get somebody that's organized and ready to go and they have everything to you and they don't have to really be giving you much updated stuff, then you're going to get it in and you're going to move it through those channels pretty quick. The other one too is like sometimes it can be property related. Where there might be some delays with stuff and then it's like hurry up and slam it through at the end. But I feel like most of the time it's because there are things that the buyer
wasn't doing. Yeah.
They're not moving as quickly as we need them to. And on our end, it's kind of tough. Like you run into this with other stuff too, but it's like finding that balance of urgency without stressing them out too much.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm going to lose my mind here if you don't just shut up and leave me alone for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
So it's trying to find that comfort balance, which tends to be more lenient, I find, in the first half. And then the second half is kind of like, look, hey, we got to get this thing moving. So can you talk to your mom? And sometimes it's got to add a co-borrower. Like there can be things that come up, but I'd say most of the time it is not just because the lender is just like hanging out, waiting
for stuff
to just like delay things. It's usually something has been delayed for one reason or another. Cause I could pre-approve somebody and review all the documents and we could still have certain things that we still need to get that do not impact their income or their assets because, we have those things covered, but there could be another variable, it could be somebody that's like self-employed and they're waiting for a P&L from their accountant and the accountant's now in Mexico for 2 weeks and like random things that do end up coming up, but it's mostly.
So they have to get hot and heavy for the first part. The first week you got to just do everything.
First week, if you
I do think it.
I
do think it takes it takes a lull, right? Like once you get the initial stuff in, then it's kind of there's a little bit of break. But
it's that's that first wave there is going to be the most time consuming for you as the buyer, like that first week, because you're getting updated documents, you're signing your disclosures, you're dealing with an appraisal, you're dealing with, there's a million things going on.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like, now you just kind of sit back and hurry up and wait. And we go through our channels of everything. And then it's going to be like, hey, we need updated this or updated that. But it's that first week or so that's really the most critical. Because you look back, you get to that point and you look back and you're like, man, if we could have saved a day here or here or here,
it would have changed everything.
It would have changed our whole timeline because we would have been 3 days ahead now instead of up against the clock here stressing. So yeah.
Okay. I thought it was going to be lenders, but that makes sense. I'd let you,
and it could be
I'd let you go on that.
certain situations, but
that's what I just tell the buyers all the time. I'm like, yeah, it's your lender. Don't worry about it.
Lenders.
The lenders are just a pain.
Yes.
Number 2, buyers not understanding pre-qualified versus pre-approved.
That's going to be a lender. Yeah. That's going to be a lender thing. I think that goes back to the education piece again of, you telling me what you make and your scenario and me saying, okay, you're pre-qualified for this amount is very different than running everything, looking at it all, analyzing their income and history and everything. So that's on the lender for not specifying that of like, hey, this gives you an idea of what you can expect. And the other version is here's what you can qualify for. So I know sometimes.
How often do you do both? Like, how often is a pre-qual versus a pre-approval? Do you do more pre-approvals, or is it kind of equal? Or
I usually do more pre-approvals. The pre-quals tend to be the people that are like, hey, I'm not looking for 6 months or a year, but I did want to kind of just start having the conversation to see, like, I'm not ready to have everything done, but can you give me a ballpark idea of what I can be expecting? So that's usually when those pre-qualifications will come in. And a lot of times they turn into a pre-approval quicker than they are thinking, because if the news is something that they're excited about, then they're going to be like, oh, wow, well, maybe we can do this sooner than we thought. Okay, what does it take to get pre-approved? Because now that we know that we're here, we might as well just do this and be ready.
Yeah. Do you give out pre-qual letters?
No.
Okay. That's what I figured. Because if someone wants to actually write an offer, it's a pre-approval. You got to go through the process.
Yeah. Okay. If the lender's doing their job.
For people that are like thinking, I just want a quick, thing, and because I don't see pre-qual letters when I get an offer. Like, if ever, I don't know if I've ever seen one. That's just a pre-qual.
Probably not. But I mean, not to say that they're not out there.
Yeah.
But I think the hard part is most people, when they're looking at it as like pre-qualification and pre-approval to most people means the same thing.
Yeah, to most people. Yeah,
to most people, right? Absolutely. They're going to be like, cool, I got a pre-qual letter or a pre-approval letter. I
talked to a lender. And he pre-approved me for X amount.
Yes.
Got off the phone after 10 minutes,
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that it's probably just, it says pre in some type of qualified or approved. They're going to assume that we're good to go. But yeah, most of the time it's those people that are thinking that it's a little farther down the road, so they're not really ready to dive into it. But
okay, yeah, that makes sense. Though the pre-approval and the pre-qualification, it's worth it to just talk about just real quickly, like to make an offer, you got to get pre-approved. So if you've talked to a lender and you called him for 10 minutes and he said, you make this much money and here's your general debt, like, okay, cool, you can get pre-qualified for that. I think the average person, it makes sense that they think pre-qualified, pre-approval is the exact same thing, because it does sound the exact same thing. But in a lending world, that means vastly different things. So so if you're calling your agent and he, saying you're pre-qualified for this, and you talk to your lender for a couple seconds and everything's good, you should probably recheck with your lender before you start writing an offer.
Right. Yeah. Nothing worse than probably writing it all up to then ask for the pre-approval letter and then be like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah, and you find that with a lot of buying agents that it's not their fault. Like, it's, a lot of newer ones especially, they don't know what pre-qual and pre-approval is. It's the Wild West in real estate. You take your license and it's like, okay, go find clients, especially like a Zillow lead or a Redfin lead. And you kind of get in this thing and they're like, oh, we're pre-approved for, 800,000. And then, they're like, okay, cool, let's go look at houses. And you make an offer, and then the lender's like, well, no, we pre-qualified them, but we have to do all this stuff to ensure that is indeed the case, that you are pre-approved for 800,000. Then it's like, now you're in this panic and this disappointment, and everyone's kind of upset. And so really knowing that in the agent side of things, but also as the buyer side of things, to, when you start seriously looking and you're ready to, like, potentially that day make an offer, you should probably talk to your lender before that. So
isn't it crazy that a while ago, like, you could just submit an offer without even including a pre-approval letter?
Yeah.
Like, and they just needed to get their financing figured out within 5 days or something like that. Like,
it's crazy.
I don't know. Ever since I've been in it, like in 2013 is when I got in, and that's when I remember it must have been before everything crashed. That was probably just the norm, because I remember at that time starting out, and that was more of a question of like, have they been pre-approved? Like, have you had a chance to go over this stuff before we submit the offer? But most of the time the letter was attached and ready to go. But it's such a weird thought, especially over so much time of like, that makes sense. Why would you want to submit an offer without knowing what your numbers look like and payments and all that? But different world.
Crazy times, man. You live and learn.
Yep.
Sometimes you don't learn. Well, this one's kind of cheesy. I'm kind of mad that I didn't look at the last one. Number one is poor communication across all parties: agents, lenders, buyers, and sellers. Well, that's like a dramatic.
Who do we blame that on?
Number one. I blame that on me for not researching all these top 10s. But
true.
I think like ultimately, I guess I can speak to the communication between lender and agent and how important that is. And this is not a pitch for Cody and I or Cody. Like, I would say, if you're working with Cody and you don't know me, go with another agent that Cody knows or respects or whatever. I'm not pitching for myself to be, it has to be Cody or I or Buzz. I'm just saying, like, I think it's underestimated and underappreciated that when a lender and an agent are on the same page, relationship wise, business aspect wise, how they communicate, personality wise. Like, I know that all sounds maybe a little superficial on the surface of things, but when you have deals, if they're cookie cutter, you could work with Rocket Mortgage.
Totally.
Like, whoop-de-doo. Like, it doesn't really matter. It's when things come up and you need answers. For me, specifically with you, I looked for, obviously, we get along well and personality-wise, but at the same time, like, I can text you almost always, and you're there. And there's nothing worse in a transaction when we have something come up that a lender is like, I don't work past 5. I don't work on the weekends. I don't work this. I don't do this. I'm not going to answer my phone after this because, doctors don't do that.
Right. Oh, man, I hear that all the time.
I want to throw up. But no, I think that's where we need, I think underestimating that it could really kill a deal, especially if your client, whatever your payments might be different. You might do different than a salary. You might be different than a W-2. You might have a sudden change midway through the transaction. Like, having communication with your lender and your agent, and they're all on the same page to kind of help you through that, is more critical than you think. And we've had deals, you've had them, I've had them, where they failed because of lack of communication. Like, not anything different that could have been solved besides lack of communication. That's the most frustrating thing, is losing a deal because the agent and the lender didn't talk to each other, or losing a deal because the agent didn't answer the phone after 5 and we had to get something done that night. Like, so yes, communication is key with all of this stuff. And I know it sounds commonsensical, but man, the lender agent relationship can really kill the deal or make the deal. So
I completely agree. Not that that's probably much of a surprise, because we're both in the same experience with it, right? Like, we've both experienced. I've experienced
seen
it
it.
times.
It's not a sales pitch. It's we've seen it with experience. Like,
and you see it often enough too, where it's like there's such an appreciation, and you've ran into it probably with lots of lenders where you see good communication and then poor communication. And there's just something about that kind of teamwork aspect to it that goes so far beyond probably what's seen by the buyers and the sellers.
Yes.
Where there is that collaboration with stuff and communication and help, and like, hey, here's what we're running into. Here's the thing that's kind of jamming things up right now. And you can brainstorm and you can work on that stuff, and they can go, oh yeah, well, actually, I know, the solution to this, or we had talked about this before, and let me get that information for you. Rather than spinning your wheels for 2 days trying to figure it out. And then you're like, oh no, there's just so many things that come up. And I've ran into it too with real estate agents where the communication is just not, like, I'm just trying to give updates even, or check in or ask a question, and it's like hard enough to get a hold of them. And I'm like, I don't know how you're successful at your
I think
job,
that all the
because
time, and it's sad. But I'm like, how are you successful in this industry? I don't get it.
Like, we're in a transaction here, and I can't even get you to call me back or anything. But
for sure,
I know to each their own. But yeah, to your point, I think, and anybody that's listening, you can probably relate it to some form of your job too, like having communication, and that usually turns into good problem solving and teamwork, and it gives you, I think, a bond too, rather than it feeling like it's me versus you, or me versus that person, or whatever it is. It's like,
for sure,
it's more of a collaboration and team effort of like, okay, how we all kind of have to pool in together to make this work and be the best experience for our clients and everything too. So having good communication tends to make the transaction better overall as a whole for everyone. So
yeah, and it's like it's respecting the deal for what it is, and knowing that this is not just a cog in the wheel. It is someone's purchase that is a big deal to them, and that it's, they're already planning their move in, they're planning the bedroom, all this stuff, and really factoring that in. I think that's what you and I have done before, and just in our research. I remember reaching out to you. A lot of the buyers never see the background work of like, hey, this is happening. Like, you make sure this happens. You're like, got it. I'm on it. And that's all in the background to make sure that closes on time and everything works well without the buyer knowing. And it's not to say we're some superheroes, but it's just kind of having two competent people that are willing to work your transaction as if it's their only transaction, so that they can get it to the finish line, so the client doesn't have to stress about, is it getting to the finish line? It just is. Like, it will be there. On the date of close, you'll be able to move your stuff in and get that emotional joy out of a new house. So so not a sales pitch, but maybe indirectly it is a sales pitch, that if you want to get the most out of your house, and you want to get the best deal in a house and want it smoothly, you got to work with good people. So
that's right.
That's our 2 cents. That's a perfect ending to our second part podcast.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's crucial.
Yeah. So, okay, those are the top 10. If you haven't seen the first 10, go to our previous podcast from the earlier week. But yeah, cover the top 10 kind of potential deal killing mistakes and who owns those. So,
and they're out there.
Yeah,
they are out there.
Yeah. Well, until next time, man. It was good talking to you, and thanks for all your insight. And if you guys could do us a favor, go to YouTube, Spotify, Apple, subscribe to our podcast so that we can keep putting out more content and helping you guys out. Comment on any of this stuff on YouTube, especially that if you want to see Cody and I talk about certain topics or certain issues that you think are important, we're happy to do that too. So
give us some ideas here.
Yeah. And if you're not on Venture, go to our live stream we do every Thursday. Cody and I are on a live stream and talk about real estate stuff in our personal lives. So if you want to keep in touch with us personally and relationship,
whatever random things we have going on,
random stuff we're talking about. So, okay, man. Well, until next time, we'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Okay. See ya.